Hello everyone. If you love heartwarming animal stories and want to follow the inspiring journey of these adorable friends, don't forget to hit the subscribe button now so you won't miss any of our videos. Now, let's dive into today's emotional story. When baby Jack was born, Sarah and Ben's lives were filled with joy and anticipation. They had prepared everything for their firstborn, excited to meet their little boy and embark on the journey of parenthood. However, the reality was much different from what they had imagined. Jack was born with a neurological condition that affected his motor skills, making it difficult for him to meet basic developmental milestones. His muscles were weak, and doctors weren't sure how much progress he would be able to make. For Sarah and Ben, the first few months were a blur of uncertainty. They watched as other babies his age rolled over, sat up, and even reached for toys, while Jack struggled just to keep his head steady. The doctors were encouraging, but it didn't feel like enough. Sarah would often sit by Jack's crib, watching him sleep, wondering if her son would ever lead a normal life. The pain of seeing her baby unable to do the things other children were capable of was overwhelming. She questioned herself, wondering if there was something more she could have done, something that could have made a difference. Ben, too, was struggling. He tried to be the rock Sarah needed, but it was hard to be hopeful when every doctor's visit seemed to confirm their fears. The therapists were kind and patient, but the progress they all hoped for felt like it was moving at a snail's pace. There were times when Ben couldn't help but feel helpless. They had tried everything, from specialized therapies to medical treatments, but Jack's condition seemed so stubborn. Despite their best efforts, the emotional toll of caring for Jack's needs was beginning to weigh heavily on them. They loved their son with every ounce of their being, but the exhaustion from sleepless nights, the constant worry, and the feeling of not knowing how to help their son in the best way was taking its toll. One evening, after a particularly discouraging doctor's visit, Sarah and Ben decided to take a walk to clear their minds. The walk was quiet, the soft evening air carrying a cool breeze through the trees. It was during that walk that they saw something that would change their lives forever. They passed a local animal shelter booth at the park, and their attention was drawn to a small group of puppies in a pen. As they approached, they noticed one puppy standing apart from the others, a small, scruffy dog with bright eyes and a playful demeanor. The puppy wagged its tail energetically as if it could sense the tension in the air around Sarah and Ben. The sight of the puppy stirred something in Sarah's heart. She couldn't explain it, but she felt an immediate connection. Without saying a word, she knelt down and extended her hand toward the puppy. The little dog trotted over to her eagerly, tail wagging with excitement, and licked her fingers affectionately. Ben watched in silence, feeling a mix of surprise and curiosity at how this simple interaction had already begun to soften the weight they had been carrying for so long. "Let's take him home," Sarah said, her voice soft, yet filled with conviction. Ben looked at her, unsure at first. Could they really take on the responsibility of a puppy while also dealing with Jack's needs? But there was something about the dog's energy, something unspoken but deeply comforting, that made Ben's hesitation melt away. After speaking with the shelter worker and learning more about the puppy, they agreed to adopt him. The little dog, a mixed-breed terrier, had been abandoned at the shelter and was now looking for a family. They named him Buddy. From the moment Buddy stepped into their home, something changed. He wasn't just another responsibility, he brought an unexpected light into their lives. Buddy had a calm presence that seemed to soothe the tension in the air. He would sit quietly by Jack's side, watching over him with an unwavering loyalty that felt almost instinctual. As the days passed, Sarah and Ben began to notice that Buddy's presence seemed to have a positive effect on Jack. When Jack cried, Buddy would gently nudge his crib with his nose, offering the kind of comfort Sarah and Ben didn't know how to provide. It wasn't long before Sarah and Ben realized that Buddy wasn't just a dog. They could see that Buddy had a special ability to connect with their son in ways they hadn't imagined possible. Slowly but surely, Buddy became an integral part of their lives. He wasn't just a pet. He was becoming a key player in Jack's recovery, and Sarah and Ben couldn't have been more grateful. Buddy quickly became an integral part of Jack's daily routine, and his influence began to show almost immediately. It wasn't just that Buddy was a playful and affectionate puppy, there was something deeper at play. The presence of Buddy seemed to calm Jack in ways that no therapy or medical treatment had been able to. Whenever Jack seemed frustrated or upset, Buddy would instinctively curl up beside him, resting his head gently on the edge of the crib. His quiet companionship brought a sense of calm, and Jack, who had often been inconsolable, began to settle when Buddy was nearby. One morning, Sarah placed Jack on the soft play mat in the living room for his daily exercise session. As usual, Jack struggled to lift his arms and legs, his body stiff with the limitations caused by his condition. He cried out in frustration, his face scrunching in distress. But as the tears began to fall, Buddy trotted over, tail wagging, and nudged Jack's hand with his nose. Sarah watched in awe as Jack's face softened, his crying stopping as he reached for Buddy's soft fur. For the first time in weeks, Jack seemed to focus on something other than his struggles. The puppy's calming presence gave Jack something to anchor to, a sense of security that had been absent from his life. It wasn't just emotional comfort that Buddy provided. The dog also became a key player in Jack's physical therapy. Every morning, when it was time for Jack's exercises, Buddy would be there, eagerly wagging his tail, waiting for his turn. Sarah and Ben began to notice that Jack seemed more motivated to reach for Buddy, his small hand stretching out in an attempt to touch the puppy's fur. At first, Jack could only manage to reach out weakly, his arms trembling with effort. But over time, with Buddy's constant presence and encouragement, Jack began to make small gains. He would stretch his arms toward Buddy, trying to pet him, and Buddy would respond by licking Jack's hands gently, as though encouraging him to keep going. The repetition of these small movements helped Jack build muscle strength and coordination. Ben and Sarah were amazed at the changes they saw in their son. Jack, who had once been so withdrawn and frustrated by his inability to move, now seemed to gain some confidence with every small success. His laughter became more frequent, and his eyes sparkled with excitement when Buddy came into view. Buddy's presence also helped Jack emotionally. For a child who had been largely unresponsive to outside stimuli, Buddy acted as a bridge, helping Jack connect with the world around him. When Jack became anxious or upset, Buddy was there, offering his quiet, steady companionship. The dog's unconditional love and patience provided a sense of stability that Jack had never known before. There was one particularly defining moment that left a lasting impact on Sarah and Ben. One afternoon, while practicing his exercises, Jack reached his arm out toward Buddy with surprising strength. For the first time, he managed to pet Buddy's fur. Sarah gasped, her eyes filling with tears as she watched this small but significant milestone. "Look, Ben," Sarah whispered, pointing toward Jack. "He's doing it." Ben's face lit up with pride, but also with a deep sense of gratitude. They had tried everything to help Jack, but they had never imagined that a small puppy could be the one to make such a difference. It was as though Buddy had become Jack's lifeline, pulling him out of the isolation and frustration he had been living in for so long. Over the next few weeks, Jack continued to progress. His arms became stronger, and his movements more controlled. The bond between Buddy and Jack grew stronger with each passing day. Jack began to smile more often, laughing when Buddy did something particularly silly, and reaching out to the dog whenever he wanted comfort or companionship. Ben and Sarah started to see a future they hadn't thought was possible. Every day, Buddy helped Jack take small steps forward, both physically and emotionally. It wasn't just the puppy's presence that had made the difference, it was Buddy's ability to connect with Jack, to help him feel secure, and to encourage him to keep going even when it seemed impossible. For the first time, Sarah and Ben allowed themselves to dream of a future where Jack could live a full, independent life. They knew there was still a long road ahead, but with Buddy by their side, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, with Buddy's gentle influence, Jack's healing journey continued. The puppy had not only become a companion for Jack, but also a teacher, a symbol of the power of love, patience, and perseverance. Sarah and Ben realized that sometimes, the most unexpected sources of support can come in the smallest packages. And in Buddy, they had found the friend and ally they never knew they needed. As the weeks passed, Buddy's influence on Jack's progress grew more and more apparent. Jack, once a baby who could hardly move without assistance, was now showing signs of growth that Sarah and Ben hadn't dared to hope for. Each day, Buddy seemed to understand just what Jack needed, offering his quiet support and comfort during therapy sessions. Sarah could hardly believe the changes she was seeing in Jack. What once felt like a slow and uncertain path now seemed to have a rhythm, a path forward where Jack could grow stronger with each passing day. It wasn't just his physical development that was improving, but also his emotional well-being. The connection he had formed with Buddy had unlocked something deep within him, his ability to engage with the world, to respond to stimuli, and to begin developing a sense of self-reliance. Buddy's role went beyond simply being a companion. The puppy had become Jack's therapist in ways that none of the professionals had been able to achieve. During physical therapy, Jack was more motivated to stretch and move his arms when Buddy was in the room. At first, Jack struggled to make any significant movements, but with Buddy's consistent encouragement, Jack's determination began to grow. One afternoon, Sarah and Ben sat together, watching Jack's therapy session from the couch. They saw Buddy patiently sitting beside Jack, nudging him gently every time he seemed to lose focus. It was a quiet encouragement, but it worked wonders. With each nudge, Jack's attention returned to the task at hand, and his movements became stronger and more intentional. Buddy's presence helped Jack focus on the task, making the process less overwhelming and far more manageable. "Look at him," Sarah whispered to Ben. "He's actually trying." Ben nodded, his heart swelling with pride. "I don't think it would have happened without Buddy. He's our little miracle worker." Indeed, Buddy had become more than just a dog in their lives. He had become a catalyst for Jack's improvement. His calm demeanor, playful antics, and gentle presence encouraged Jack to push himself beyond his perceived limitations. There were days when Jack would get frustrated, when the exercises felt like too much, but Buddy was there, wagging his tail, as if to say, "You can do this." There were setbacks, of course. Some days, Jack would cry in frustration after a failed attempt, and Buddy would rest his head on Jack's leg, offering comfort with his presence. When Jack became tired and agitated, Buddy would stand at attention, watching him carefully, ensuring he didn't feel alone in those moments. It wasn't about the physical therapy anymore, it was about the emotional support Buddy provided. One day, after a particularly intense therapy session, Sarah sat with Jack in her lap, holding him close. Buddy lay beside them, his body relaxed but still watchful. As Sarah whispered words of encouragement to Jack, she noticed something that filled her heart with hope. Jack's hand reached out, weakly but purposefully, and touched Buddy's fur. The simple gesture, which had seemed impossible not too long ago, was now a beautiful symbol of Jack's growth. "That's it, Jack," Sarah said softly, her voice cracking with emotion. "You did it." She looked at Ben, who stood across the room, tears in his eyes. He had been there for every step of this journey, and in this moment, they both realized just how far Jack had come. They had started this journey uncertain of Jack's future, filled with doubts about his ability to grow and develop. But with Buddy's constant companionship, Jack had proven that even the smallest victories were worth celebrating. With Buddy by his side, Jack had become more than just a child facing physical challenges. He had become a determined little boy, willing to take on whatever came his way. As Sarah tucked Jack into bed that evening, Buddy curled up at his feet, as he always did. Sarah smiled, brushing Jack's hair from his face, and whispered a silent prayer of gratitude. They had come so far together, and she knew there was still a long road ahead. But with Buddy's love and support, they would continue moving forward, step by step. "Good night, my love," Sarah whispered, kissing Jack's forehead. "We've got this." And as Buddy lay beside him, Sarah knew that they weren't just helping Jack with his physical growth, they were helping him grow emotionally, too. The love and patience of a dog, in all its simplicity, had proven to be one of the most powerful tools in Jack's healing journey. And with Buddy's support, there was nothing that seemed too impossible anymore. As the days continued to pass, Jack's progress grew more noticeable, and the bond between him and Buddy deepened. Every little movement Jack made felt like a huge victory, and it was clear to Sarah and Ben that Buddy's influence had become an essential part of Jack's recovery. Buddy was no longer just a dog in their home, he had become Jack's constant companion, his motivator, and his protector. One afternoon, Sarah and Ben decided to try something new. They had been working on Jack's ability to sit up for a while, but it was a skill that he still struggled with. His muscles were weak, and he was often frustrated by his lack of progress. But Sarah had a feeling that Buddy could help Jack take that next step, literally. "Let's try this one more time," Sarah said, her voice full of encouragement. "I think Buddy's here to help." Ben smiled and nodded, watching as Sarah gently sat Jack up in the center of the living room. Buddy, always attuned to Jack's needs, immediately trotted over, wagging his tail in excitement. He nudged Jack with his nose, as if to say, "Let's do this, Buddy." At first, Jack struggled to keep his balance, his small body wavering as he tried to steady himself. Sarah's hands were close, ready to assist, but Buddy's calm presence seemed to give Jack the confidence he needed. Jack focused on Buddy, whose warm brown eyes watched him closely. Slowly but surely, Jack steadied himself, his hands reaching for Buddy's soft fur. With Buddy standing by his side, Jack was able to hold himself up for longer than he ever had before. "Good job, Jack." Ben cheered from across the room, his voice filled with pride. "You're doing it, Buddy." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes as she watched Jack hold his position, supported by Buddy's reassuring presence. It wasn't just the physical progress that amazed her, it was the trust, the bond, that had been formed between them. Buddy was not just helping Jack physically, he was giving him emotional strength, too. His unwavering support gave Jack the confidence to keep going, even when things felt impossible. As Jack continued to practice, Buddy stayed close, nudging him gently whenever he seemed to lose his balance. Every time Jack reached for Buddy's fur, it was like a small victory, a sign of the trust that had blossomed between them. Jack no longer seemed afraid of trying. The little puppy had taught him that it was okay to fall and get back up again, to keep pushing even when the journey felt long and hard. That evening, after the therapy session, Sarah and Ben sat together on the couch, watching Jack play with Buddy on the floor. Jack was more animated than he had been in weeks, his laughter filling the room as Buddy eagerly chased after a ball. "Look at him," Sarah whispered to Ben, her voice thick with emotion. "He's smiling." Ben smiled back, his heart swelling with pride. "I know. And it's all because of Buddy. I don't think he'd be this far along without him." It was true. Buddy had been more than just a dog to Jack. He had been a friend, a helper, and a healer. His presence had transformed Jack's journey. The love and trust Buddy offered had brought Jack out of his shell, allowing him to reach new milestones that once seemed out of reach. Over the next few weeks, Jack continued to improve. He began sitting up on his own for longer periods of time, his muscles growing stronger with each passing day. He started crawling, a huge leap forward in his development, and Buddy was right by his side, watching him with pride. But the most significant change came when Jack, after months of struggling, took his first steps. One afternoon, as Sarah and Ben sat in the living room, Jack stood up on his own, holding onto the couch for support. Buddy, always attentive, stood next to him, his tail wagging as if he knew something monumental was about to happen. With shaky legs, Jack took his first step toward Buddy. Then another. And another. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. "Look at him," Sarah gasped, her hand over her mouth. "He's walking, Ben." Ben rushed over, his eyes filled with tears as he knelt beside Jack. "You did it, Buddy. You're walking." Jack smiled, his face beaming with pride as he reached out to Buddy, who nuzzled him gently, as if saying, "I knew you could do it." In that moment, Sarah and Ben knew that Jack's journey was far from over, but it was one full of promise. With Buddy by his side, anything seemed possible. The puppy had been a beacon of light in the darkness, showing them that with love, patience, and unwavering support, they could overcome any obstacle. As they watched Jack and Buddy play together that evening, Sarah and Ben realized that the road ahead would still be challenging, but they were no longer afraid. They had each other. And with Buddy, their faithful companion, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The story of Jack and his puppy Buddy is a powerful reminder of the transformative power of love, patience, and support. Jack, born with a neurological condition, faced tremendous challenges in his early years, struggling to develop motor skills and communicate. But Buddy, a simple yet devoted puppy, became his constant companion and source of encouragement. Through Buddy's presence, Jack found the strength to push through his limitations, learning to sit up, crawl, and eventually take his first steps. This bond highlights the importance of companionship in overcoming obstacles and achieving personal growth. In real life, animals, especially dogs, have been shown to have therapeutic effects on children with special needs, offering emotional support and fostering confidence. Just like Jack and Buddy, many children facing physical or emotional struggles benefit from the unconditional love and dedication of animals. This story reminds us that sometimes, the support we need can come from unexpected places, and with perseverance and the right help, we can overcome the greatest of challenges. It teaches us the value of patience, the importance of believing in ourselves, and the life-changing impact of having a companion who believes in us.